Union energy ministers have met at an emergency meeting on gas prices. AP correspondent Karen Chames has more.
As winter approaches, EU nations have not been able to agree on the question of gas prices, which are expected to skyrocket. The soaring prices are a result of Russia's war in Ukraine, with Moscow slashing gas supplies to all the European nations critical of Russia's actions. The meeting was focused on trying to break a deadlock between countries like Greece, Spain and France, who want a cap on prices to ease household bills, and those like Germany and Netherlands that are insisting a price cap could cut supplies. Estonia's Minister of Economic Affairs, Riina Sikkut, believes a price cap is necessary, but it is a tricky balance.
The security of supply is paramount. If the price is too high, we can compensate, we need to compensate, but we cannot threaten the security of supply.
I'm Karen Chamas.
U.S. President Joe Biden said on Thursday that price caps on Russian oil being proposed under the Group of Seven Nations program were in play. He added that he had spoken to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on the issue. Biden spoke to reporters during a Thanksgiving holiday visit to a fire station in the U.S. state of Massachusetts. European Union governments were set to resume talks Thursday evening or Friday after failing to reach a deal Wednesday on the level to cap prices for Russian seaborne oil. Ukrainian officials are calling for the world to act against Russia for its airstrikes targeting civilian infrastructure. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba tweeted Thursday that Russia, quote, wages the most cowardly and barbaric type of war against unarmed civilians, end quote. His comments followed President Volodymyr Zelensky's appearance by video before the UN Security Council, during which Zelensky said Russian missiles hit hospitals, schools, transportation targets, and residential areas. This is VOA News. In an emergency session of the UN Human Rights Council, the UN rights chief insisted Thursday the bloody repression of peaceful demonstrators in Iran must end. This as countries discussed launching an investigation into Tehran's deadly crackdown and determine if a high-level international investigation is warranted. The meeting was requested by Germany and Iceland with the backing of more than 50 countries. It follows 2 months of protests in Iran, sparked by the death in custody of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini after she was arrested for alleged breach of the country's strict dress rules for women based on Islamic Sharia law. A cholera outbreak sweeping through Haiti is claiming a growing number of children amid a surge in malnutrition, according to UNICEF. The deadly combination means that about 40% of cholera cases now involve children, according to the United Nations agency. Indonesian President Joko Widodo said Thursday the focus for rescuers in Cianjur would remain on evacuating and finding dozens of people who were still missing from Monday's earthquake that killed at least 271 people. He told journalists there that steep conditions, rain, aftershocks, and an unstable ground were making search efforts difficult in the mountainous district. Lisa Murkowski has won re-election in Alaska's Senate race. AP correspondent Lisa Dwyer has more.
Alaska Republican U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski has won re-election, defeating a fellow Republican who was endorsed by former President Donald Trump. Murkowski wound up with 54% of the vote in the ranked choice election. Murkowski was the only Senate Republican who voted to convict Trump at his impeachment trial last year, who was on the ballot this year. Trump was not convicted, but her vote was a sore point raised by Trump, who had vowed to campaign against her. Murkowski was censored by state Republican Party leaders last year for offenses that included her impeachment vote. During the campaign, she emphasized a willingness to work across party lines and focused on her record and seniority. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
U.S. troops stationed at an Army base in South Korea near the demilitarized zone celebrated the Thanksgiving holiday Thursday. Senior U.S. Army officials served them a traditional Thanksgiving feast meal.
So it gives them that taste of home, and it's an opportunity, for everybody to, break bread together, have a meal together, and then for us as leaders, it's a chance for our soldiers to see us as leaders serving them the meal.
Nearly 29,000 American troops are stationed in South Korea, which has the United States' third largest military presence outside its country after Japan and Germany, according to data from U.S. Defense Manpower Data Center. Via remote, I'm Diane Roberts, VOA News.
Right now, VOA1. This is VOA News via remote. I'm Laurel Bowman. Much of Ukraine remained without heat or power after the most devastating Russian airstrike on its energy grid so far. And in Kyiv, residents were warned to brace for further attacks and stock up on water, food, and warm clothing. Moscow acknowledges attacking basic infrastructure, saying it aims to reduce Ukraine's ability to fight and push it to negotiate. Kyiv says such attacks are a war crime. The head of NATO has expressed the alliance's unwavering dedication to helping Ukraine defend itself against Russia. AP correspondent Karen Chamas reports.
NATO will continue to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg was resolute in his support for the war-battered country, adding,
"We will not back down."
Speaking to reporters ahead of a meeting of NATO foreign ministers in Romania next week, Stoltenberg urged member countries to continue providing air defense systems to Ukraine. As Ukraine's foreign minister is due to join them in Bucharest, Stoltenberg expressed the need to prepare Ukraine for the winter and the longer term.
Over the longer term, we will help Ukraine transition from Soviet-era equipment to modern NATO standards, doctrine and training.
I'm Karen Chamas.
And President Vladimir Putin on Friday met the mothers of soldiers who had been fighting in Ukraine, telling them that he and the entire Russian leadership shared their suffering. The war in Ukraine has killed or wounded tens of thousands of soldiers on both sides, according to the United States, and the Russian invasion has triggered the biggest confrontation between Moscow and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. For more stories, visit us online at voanews.com. This is VOA News. Police in Malawi have arrested 4 more people in connection with a mass grave uncovered last month, with 30 bodies believed to be Ethiopians who had immigrated illegally and are believed to have suffocated to death. Lamek Messina reports.
Police said in a statement Friday that in addition to the new arrests, they have other evidence involving the suspect's connection. Malawi police spokesperson is Peter Kalaya.
I should mention here that the collected evidence connects all the 5 to the case, and it clearly points to the role that each played in the case.
Kalaya said police are also hunting for other suspects who are on the run. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Malawi. Malawi's Anti-Corruption Bureau.
Malaysia's newly appointed Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said on Friday his primary focus would be on the cost of living as he takes office with a slowing economy and a country deeply split after a close election. Anwar was sworn in as premier on Thursday, capping a 3-decade political journey from a protege of veteran leader Mahathir Mohamad to protest leader, a prisoner convicted of sodomy, and opposition figurehead. Prime Minister Ibrahim will be contending in Parliament with a strengthened Islamist party that espouses a stricter interpretation of Sharia Islamic law, a challenge to his vision of an inclusive society. The Islamist Party emerged as one of the big winners in Malaysia's election last Saturday. Hundreds of Indonesians prayed out in the open next to rice paddies and in the streets on Friday as the death toll from an earthquake that flattened their town in western Java rose to 310. Muslim cleric Muhammad Jamhor led a congregation in prayer in an outdoor volleyball court just 200 meters from a mosque whose walls were left cracked and windows shattered by the 5.6 magnitude quake that hit the town, which is about 75 kilometers south of the capital Jakarta, earlier this week. Frustration simmered on Friday among residents and business groups in China navigating stricter COVID-19 control curbs as the country reported another record high of daily infections just weeks after hopes had been raised of easing measures. For more stories, please visit us online at voanews.com. Reporting via remote, I'm Laurel Bowman for VOA News.